Welcome back to the Independent Thinking Children's Book Festival. I keep calling it an extravaganza. That's what it is. I'm speaking to over 40 different authors. And when I say different in terms of their backgrounds, but also the sorts of books they've been working on, whether that's books for parents, books for children, books that are relevant for teachers as well. And different sums up nicely the next book we're going to be looking at with its amazing author, Ellie Dix. And normally I reach down to sort of wave a copy of the book, and I went to do that, but I don't have the book. I've got it on paper. So Ellie, we'll have to wave the book. So there we go. The Board Game Family, Ellie Dix. So Ellie, lovely to have you here. Great to see you again. It's been a while since we met a few years ago. Just explain a little bit about how you came to be writing books about board game families from a starting point where we first met, where it was all about behaviour and teaching and children and everything. So tell us a little bit about that, please.
Well, I suppose really board games preceded my journey through education, because I've been playing board games with my family since I was tiny and never stopped. And I was really fortunate, actually, that I came from a board game family, that it wasn't just the mainstream games like Mousetrap and Monopoly. There were so many interesting games that we had in our house that most other families didn't have. So my parents were quite good at finding things like that. And they bought them because of their own interest in games for education. My mum trained teachers at Homerton College, and every year she would set a task to make a maths game, a game to use in the classroom. And so me and my sister used to play test all the games, used to provide feedback on the games to the student teachers. So I was really indoctrinated, I guess, into not just board games, but board games for teaching and learning and the impact that they can have in the classroom from a really young age. And I just never stopped playing. I love board games. And when I was a teacher myself, I used games. I was a head of drama in secondary school. Drama is often taught through games. I also taught maths to children who had failed their GCSEs and were doing their resets, and actually they struggled with maths, really struggled with maths. So I found that it was easier to get them to engage with mathematical games, with games that had some mathematical bits to them. And so I've always had this sort of pull to use games with children. If I was working on cruise ships, running youth programs, I ran youth theatre companies. I did all sorts of things, and it always came back to playing games with them. And I did it in my own classroom too. Then, yes, I went on and was one of the owners with Paul, my husband, of Pivotal Education. And we left Pivotal in 2019, and I set up as a full-time board game designer and publisher. And I have been doing that in my spare time. So it wasn't completely out of the left field. It was a passion that I kind of came back to. But the book is very much a how-to guide primarily for parents, but there's loads in there that's useful for teachers as well. In terms of why you should play games as a family, or indeed in school, or what the benefits of doing that are, and then how you can have the most positive board gaming experiences. And that comes back to behavior, really. So my 15 years in behavior management has really helped me to gain that kind of understanding. And then what kinds of games you should choose to make sure it's the best kind of experience you could possibly have. So the book is primarily for parents so that they can have opportunities to connect with their largely teenage children that they might feel a sort of pulling away from them a bit. And they want to find things that they can do together that's easy to access, that's quick to set up, and they can do at dinner and then extend a little bit, and it just brings those families together again. So that's what the book's about.
Yeah, okay. When I saw the book title, it was a while back now when it first came out, it reminded me of a quote from, I think it was Jonathan Ross, and he had been going through some family issues. I think he had been a naughty boy, but the family had come back together again, and he said board games is what had brought his family back together again. And I think he used the phrase there, families that play together, stay together.
Yeah.
And that was from a while back now. That sort of resonated in my head in terms of bringing the family just into a cohesive unit of.
But one of the reasons that games do that, and of course there are exceptions, if you're playing kind of games that are going to pull people apart, if you're playing Monopoly, you're not going to have any kind of cohesive family, wonderful, harmonious experience doing that, because it's too divisive, really. You know,
it's one of your obstacles to victory, you call it, don't you, in the book?
Exactly. The arguments, if you're playing the wrong kind of game. But if you select the right kind of game, then playing games does bring families closer together. You're all sitting around a table together. Your focus is on the game, but you can see each other. So you're having a joint experience. You're creating shared memories. You don't have to talk. There's no small talk. You don't need to, talk about anything else. You can talk about the game. And games are designed to give us different kinds of experiences. So if you want a kind of funny, uplifting, hilarious experience, you can pick a game that will do that for you. If you want a thinky, how do I work this out kind of puzzly experience, there are games that do that. If you want a game where you're working alongside everybody else at the family and you're working as a team to try and beat the game, there are games that do that. And so there's always going to be a game that suits your family. And I think another really interesting thing about games is that if you have children, they're brilliant for neurodiversity. And I'm thinking about, particularly children and adults who are on the autistic spectrum will very often very much gravitate towards games because there's a set rule set, a framework, clear victory conditions. They know what they have to do. It's very repetitive in terms of how the turns work and the games work. And it's something that is expected. Then there's not kind of the pressure on them to make conversation because you're playing a game. And I think all these things it's about the focus is on the game, not on each other, that free up the conversation, allow the conversation to spark around the game and through the game. And then later on, you can come back and talk about the game. You had an experience together. You've got a bookmark that you can go back to, something that you can, that you can talk about time and time again. I mean, I still remember, most people that have played board games as a child still remember individual occasions where you played a game and something happened that you think, I mean, I remember playing Balderdash with my older brothers and sisters and the whole family. And I won't tell you what it was because it was quite rude, but somebody wrote down something and a definition to this word. And we couldn't stop laughing about it for weeks. And it's one of those stories that comes back round. And I've found that a lot of stories revolve around games, whether they're formal tabletop games or whether they're just sort of games that you've created as a family.
Yeah, from a previous life, from ages ago, I remember one Christmas playing Pictionary with my in-laws and some friends, and it was brutal. We were clearly not following your obstacles to victory. It was yes, yeah. It put me off games because it was just so.
Well, that's the thing. It's very easy to be put off games, and I think one of the issues for families is that the ones that are the most well known, the mainstream games that you'll pick up in Waterstones, Waterstones is getting better actually, W.H. Smith, something like that, the ones that every family will have in their cupboard, none of them are the best games to play as a family. So you've got things like Trivial Pursuit and Scrabble and things like that that your level of knowledge and understanding is a benefit in the game. Mm-hmm. And particularly like Trivial Pursuit, where you're going to get more turns the more you know. So adults playing against children, there's nothing fair there, not even if they're playing the children's ones. It just never works. Then you've got games like Monopoly, that's just evil, basically, and someone's going to be winning the whole time, and everybody knows who's winning all the time. And you could be losing for hours and hours and hours, and you can see the writing on the wall that you're never going to come back from this situation, but it might still be 3 hours before you're out, and you might be out 3 hours before the game finishes. Well, that's not a family gaming experience. That's not something where everybody is being brought together. It's something where everybody is being pulled apart. So it's really common to find people that say, I hate board games. And it's because they've had experiences like that of playing what are quite mainstream games that aren't conducive to great family gaming or gaming in school. And really what you should be looking for are games to suit your, I mean, what works for one family is going to be totally different for another family. You know, one family might be really, really happy to have the backbiting and the backstabbing and all of that. And another family might want something very, very gentle where they're all working together. But there are games where you have no idea who's winning. Everybody's playing on their own board and there might be some interaction, but people can't see what you're doing. And the scores are revealed at the end. In fact, you could count up half an hour after the end of the game. It won't make any difference. So if you've got, and one of the biggest problems that people say is that they can't play games because their children can't cope with losing. And this is one of the best things you can do if you're in that position, is find games where it's not clear who is winning as you go through the game, and then separate game playing from scoring.
Yeah, no, I like that. You're explaining to me so many reasons why I hated Monopoly.
Yeah.
The idea that you know you're losing and there's nothing you can do about it, and you've got another 3 hours to go. Yeah. Can you talk about families? You mentioned your family. There's something in the introduction to your book where you describe, and I think I would have liked him, your dad.
Yeah.
How his approach, because I just love his sort of random approach to things. Just explain that a little bit.
He is a character. Yeah, he's a complete character. He loves, this is born out of the fact that he gets very easily bored. And so what he does is he uses gamification. He really makes life into a game to keep things interesting for himself. And he generally does this through random numbers. So to give some examples, he would write computer programs that would generate a 6-figure grid reference that we wouldn't just go for a walk. We wouldn't just go, to the local woods for a walk. He'd go, hang on, let me just fire up the computer program, and we'd all gather around the computer and he'd press the button and it would go tick, 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 and then come up with a 6-figure number, which would be a grid reference somewhere within 25 miles of where we live. We're going to go there. And then we get the maps out and work out where it is. And we go off there and we go for a walk. And the idea would be we have to get to the exact grid reference. One time it was within RAF Mildenhall. And so Dad's solution, we couldn't get in, of course, was let's just walk around the perimeter. Well, it's really, really big. That was not a great day. But he's taken it too far. He took my mum on holiday based on random numbers in the index of the Gazetteer. It's ridiculous. They ended up in Leicestershire.
Yeah.
But it makes life interesting. And so
it's that playful attitude, isn't it? The playfulness, the random, in a world that is and has been proven to be unpredictable in the last 18 months. Let's embrace that, and let's use that as a way to enjoy life and see what happens. I love it, and the randomness and the complexity of it, and all of that are all things that just we so often in schools we're teaching children stuff, we're teaching them facts, we're teaching them procedures, we're doing experiments which aren't experiments because we know how they're going to end. Yeah. So suddenly you've brought an element of chance and luck and randomness an opportunity in, and levels a playing field for everybody.
But that's why people like a game, because first and foremost it's fun, and secondly you're not sure what's going to happen. That's one of the reasons it's so powerful to use games in the classroom. And most teachers will tell you that the kids are desperate to play games. If you've got a game that you play like once a term at the end of term and the last lesson,
wet day or something, wet play.
Yeah, I mean, people, that's what they want to do. And it's very powerful because you can learn so much through playing games. But it's not the focus. The focus for the learner, for the child, for the player is, how do I play this game? How can I have fun playing this game? Am I going to win? Can we all win? And that's what they're thinking about. And because they're thinking about something else and they have a really clear motivation to get through the game, to win the game, they can access so much learning on the way. That's why it's so powerful. So, but it's got to be fun, right? It's got to be fun or it doesn't work.
Yeah. What game's not fun? Yeah. Unless, Scottish football player, maybe, given what went on. Anyway. Moving
But
on.
there are, and when we look at educational games, sadly, lots of educational games are created by non-game designers, by people who aren't good at making games. They might be good at creating educational resources, but really what they've created is not a fun game. And children can see through it straight away. When I say children, I mean like all learners, whatever age they are.
Yeah.
People can see through it. They don't want, this is not a proper game. Give me a game. An actual fun game.
Read us a bit from your book. Tell us give us a little extract, Ellie.
So this is a section in a wider section about rituals and how, because of course the book is about for parents who are wanting to introduce board games and get their kids really hooked in board games, and this is a bit of a tip. And so the wider section is about what rituals you can create around board gaming, and this is one of the ideas. The section's called the game chest. Part of the importance of rituals is that they only happen in certain situations. The restaurant that you go to on your birthday, the songs that you only listen to when you're running, or the lucky socks that you only wear when you have a big day at work. To create an instant ritual hit at games night, introduce the game chest. The game chest comes out only on game nights. The rest of the time it stays visible on a shelf as a reminder of the wonders of board gaming. In an ideal world, the game chest would be kept locked, except when board gaming. So you'll need a lockable chest or box that's eye-catching and intriguing. You might find a pirate-style treasure chest at a car boot sale, or maybe an army-style lockbox on eBay. You might even have something old and unusual hidden away in your loft. The game chest is the keeper of board gaming delights and the centre of game night rituals. If you're feeling creative, you could even start your game night with a hunt for the key. So give the family some clues about where it might be hiding, a riddle, maybe a map of the house with X marks the spot on it, or a list of directions or instructions. But for a really quick setup, put the key in place of a common household item, the toothpaste, for example. Pick up the toothpaste and then put that in the place of something else, maybe a wooden spoon. Place the wooden spoon where you'd normally find the toilet roll and repeat as desired with other items. Then give the final item to the family for them to work backwards to find the key. And it clears itself up as a bonus. Once the key's been discovered, the chest can be opened. The items that live in the game chest are intended to make your game night special. You may have some individual game pawns that belong to each member of the family. These are the pieces that represent the player on the board of the game. So you might use things from Monopoly, for example. Purchase some miniature figures, comb Etsy for some custom meeples, go hunting in junk shops for trinkets or charms, or you could even make your own designs and send them to a 3D printer. If this sounds like too much trouble, just rate the Monopoly books and choose your favourite. Put them in a little bag and store them in the game chest. And here are some other ideas of things that could live in your game chest. Your game night mascot to sit on the table and watch the game. A game master's hat as a signifier of this really important role. An official scorebook for keeping track of your plays. A game night journal for documenting the meta game, which I haven't got time to explain to you what it means.
Read the book.
Read the book. A visitor book to collect comments and signatures from non-regulars at game night. A selection of game pawns for visitors so they feel like they're included. Dice, playing cards, poker chips and dominoes, all of your classic board gaming staples. Dice shakers, dice trays, a dice tower to improve all your dice rolling experience. Dry white pens to write on laminated score sheets, a calculator for tricky maths, spare timers in case you want to impose a turn-taking time limit, a game mat, a surprise, something unexpected. We have a tin of sardines in ours, although I've no idea why. Put all of the items for your own game night rituals in the chest. The chest is a focal point that builds excitement and anticipation. Even when it's not in use, make sure it lives in a place that's in full view. It's worth putting some time and effort into it, as the game chest will most probably go down in family legend. Your children may replicate this with their own children, either creating their own chests or fighting over who the original should be handed down to. You'll not just be creating a tradition for your children, but possibly for many generations to come. And here is our game chest.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Which did used to have a chain around it, locked, and now doesn't anymore, but does probably, I think, still got the tin of sardines at the bottom somewhere.
Yeah.
The mascot. Yes, here are the. Here we go.
They're there. Wow, from Sainsbury's. And the box is some electrical, used to be.
Yeah, it's an old lamp, electric signalling yard arm box.
Yeah, yeah. I love it. I love it. And yes, I could see that in people's homes, and the fact that it's on display and it's constantly calling you and beckoning you, but you're turning it into a ritual. We know ritualistic behavior hits us sort of the basic part of our reptilian brains. It just sort of keeps us calm, and the sense of anticipation and curiosity, all of which are great for behavior and learning in the classroom. So to have the box like that, the trunk, the chest on display in the classroom, but that only comes out, not as a bribery thing, but comes out at certain times in certain ways. I can see it being incredibly powerful.
It's something special. It's a belonging thing. If you know about the chest, you know what's in it. It means you're part of that family or you're part of that class and you belong there. It's something that it's a secret that you know about that other people don't know about. And it's something that's talked about. Do you remember that? You know, do you remember that was so brilliant? It's that kind of thing. That's what brings us together.
Yeah, no, that's lovely. And better than a trip to RAF Mildenhall.
Oh God, yeah.
Leicestershire.
I wish my dad had thought of the game chest, but he just thought of random numbers, randomly generated walks and things.
You've broken the cycle now. So where can people find out more about you and where can they get hold of the book, Ellie?
Well, I'm at thedarkimp.com. That's the name of my board game publishing company. You can get the games from there and you can get the book from there, but it's better at the moment if you get the book through Roving Books. It's published by Crown House. And yeah, you can contact me through the Dark Imp though. The Dark Imp. Okay. Yeah. And why did you choose the Dark Imp as your the Dark Imp? This is the Dark Imp. Oh yeah, yeah. And he's on all of the, in fact, he's also in the book all time at different places. He keeps popping around corners of pages and things. Yeah. And the Dark Imp represents, it's like a teenager, really, that's slightly subversive and a bit edgy, but has a heart of gold under it all, and really just wants to be part of the family, and but is, you know, a bit edgy. And I needed I wanted a character that I could have in my games. So you could see there's the wooden imp. Nice. Is in all the games. And that would appeal to young people as well as to the parents who ultimately buy the games. Yeah. Nice. Lovely. That's been fascinating. It's totally changed my perception of board games. I probably will still be scarred by Pictionary and Monopoly for the rest of my life, but I now know why and that the alternatives are out there. So thank you so much for that, and good luck with the book and with the board games. Thank you.